Mexico president unveils steps to fight budget filibuster. Xi Jinping calls for new Asian security mechanism that excludes the US. And deadly knife attack on board Taipei metro train.
Good evening. LegCo President Zhang Yuxing announced today he will cut short the budget filibuster. Zhang has proposed reducing the amount of time amendments are debated. He hopes the budget bill will be passed early next month. Stephanie Choi reports.
Zhang Yuxing said his decision was based on Article 72 of the Basic Law, which gives the LegCo president the power to preside over meetings and to decide on the time of the sessions. Zhang explained that in previous budget debates this year, 3 legislators have spoken for a total of 161 times, at least 47 of which he considered repetitive. He stressed the need to strike a balance between carrying on with normal LegCo business and lawmakers' role in monitoring the government.
If I allow the debate to go on indefinitely and taking up indefinitely the meeting time of this council, definitely members' opportunity to monitor the governments properly and effectively would be affected.
Last year, legislators debated for 55 hours before LegCo President Zhang Yuxing decided to cut short the filibuster. This time, after 63 hours of debate, Zhang announced he will limit the time allowed for lawmakers to deliberate on more than 900 remaining amendments to 26 hours. Many pan-democratic legislators were dissatisfied.
Whenever such a decision is made by the president, it must have an arbitrary and subjective element in it. It is better, as the Civic Party thinks, for this power to be taken back from the president and to be exercised by the council itself.
The president's reason that he used is totally unacceptable. Everybody knows that the main reason is the financial crisis facing the administration. But the president evades this issue and use other reasons to suspend or to stop the meeting.
Others voiced support for Zhang's decision. But Ip Kwok Kim of the Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong said uncertainty remains in the third reading of the appropriation bill scheduled for June 4th. That's because of fears of a lack of quorum at meetings. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
Well, President Xi Jinping has called for the creation of a new Asian security structure that excludes the United States. The president unveiled his vision at the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia in Shanghai. Meanwhile, China and Russia have sealed a long-awaited gas deal between the two countries. James Aiken reports.
CICA, as it's known, has 24 regional member nations that includes the likes of South Korea, Russia, and Iran. Their goal is to improve security cooperation. This year, China took over the presidency from Turkey. President Xi Jinping used his keynote address to define his priorities for China and its neighbors. She said it's time to establish a new regional security cooperation architecture that includes a defense consultation mechanism and even a security response center. The proposal is the latest effort by Beijing to build up groups of Asian or developing governments to counterbalance American influence in the region. And while not specifically mentioning the United States, she did make a reference to Asian nations that are strengthening their alliances with Washington. Countries that strengthen military alliances against a third party do not benefit regional security, she said. China's growing regional assertiveness has led to intensifying territorial disputes with neighbors like Japan and Vietnam. Anti-Chinese violence flared last week after Beijing deployed an oil rig off the coast of Vietnam in a disputed portion of the potentially oil and gas-rich South China Sea. There was no specific mention of that conflict, but she did emphasize respect for one another's territorial integrity while avoiding interference with domestic policies of other countries. She also emphasized the need to respond collectively to mounting problems like cybersecurity, energy security, and natural disasters. But he pledged zero tolerance as he singled out what he called the three forces: terrorism, separatism, and extremism. She is among several leaders who see a common cause in uniting regional neighbors with common political and economic challenges. Beijing has seized upon its hosting of the forum to try to build clout while seeking to play down concerns about its intentions in the region. James Aiken, TVB News.
3 people were killed and at least 25 wounded in a knife attack on board a metro train in Taipei this afternoon. A university in his early 20s has been arrested.
It was a horrific scene at Jiangzicui Station, not far from the city centre on the Taipei Metro's southwestern Banqiao line. Amateur video showed the suspect walking around the platform after he got off the train there. Police say the attack happened just after 4 this afternoon. Witnesses said the train was heading towards Jiangzicui Station when a man started hacking randomly at passengers with a knife. Those who were waiting on the platform reported seeing injured passengers run out of the train when it arrived, yelling out that someone was attacking people with a knife. This person said the attacker went on the rampage as he walked from the last car of the train towards the front. She said several people were already unconscious when paramedics got there. Those who were wounded were rushed to hospital for treatment. A 21-year-old man was arrested. He's believed to be a student at a private university in Taiwan. Police officers said he smelled strongly of alcohol when he was arrested.
At least 7 people have been stabbed to death in a village in Henan province. Authorities say the incident happened in Lushan County at around 4 this morning. A suspect was later captured by police. 1 person was seriously injured. Officials believe the attack was triggered by a land dispute the assailant had with his neighbors. Yesterday in Hubei province, 8 children were wounded in a stabbing attack at a school.
A day after declaring martial law, Thailand's army chief held talks today with the key players involved in the country's political crisis. The discussions could give an indication about whether the military will restrict itself to providing security or whether it will extend its powers.
Bangkok seemed calm as day broke this morning, with people going about their daily business despite the obvious military presence on the streets. The first day of martial law in Thailand passed without incident, and now all sides are making noises about the next step. Today, Army Chief General Prayut Chan-o-cha invited the key power brokers in Thailand's political crisis to meet for the first time since it escalated 6 months ago. 7 of the country's highest-profile political figures were summoned. They included the acting Prime Minister, anti-government protest leader Suthep Thakksuban, and his rival from the pro-government Red Shirt Group. Also summoned were leaders of the ruling Pheu Thai Party and the opposition Democrat Party, as well as the 5-member Election Commission and representatives from the Senate. The military insists it's not a coup, but rather it did what it did to prevent violence and restore stability. Speaking to the media yesterday, Prayut said without martial law, Thailand's political factions would never come together to broker peace. But thousands of miles away in Washington, US officials expressed fears the longer the military stayed in power, the more likely Thailand's democracy would be undermined for good.
The State Department said last night the United States remains very concerned about the deepening political crisis there and urges all parties to respect democratic principles, including to honor its commitment to including respect for freedom of speech and freedom of the press. We expect the Army to honor its commitment to make this a temporary action to prevent violence and not to undermine democratic institutions.
In theory, those democratic institutions are merely on hold, as the Army and the Election Commission discuss a proposal for fresh elections in August. But with the military providing little clarity on a way forward, speculation that this is a de facto coup will not go away.
In Nigeria, at least 118 people were killed and dozens injured when 2 car bombs exploded in the central city of Jos. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, but the blasts are believed to be the work of the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram. Alan Buckner reports.
The bombings came in a bustling bus terminal and market. The second blast came an hour after the first, killing many of the rescue workers who had rushed to the scene. The city of Jos is in Nigeria's Middle Belt region, between the predominantly Muslim north and the Christian south. Boko Haram has claimed responsibility for numerous attacks that have killed more than 2,000 people since the beginning of the year. The group has also been holding almost 300 schoolgirls hostage for more than a month, an incident that sparked international outrage and action. Over the weekend, leaders of Western African countries and the United States, Britain, and France agreed to cooperate in the fight against Boko Haram. A spokesman for President Goodluck Jonathan said yesterday African countries agreed to provide a battalion of troops each to patrol border areas, while Western countries will offer technical expertise.
No effort will be spared to stop the proliferation of small arms and light weapons and the supply of arms and equipment made available to terrorists. President Jonathan considers these measures very useful aspects of the concerted international effort to combat terrorism and put an end to the Boko Haram menace.
But in Chibok, the town where the girls were abducted, there is growing frustration at the perceived slow response from the government in its search. One woman, whose daughter is being held hostage, expressed anger that Nigerian forces have taken more than a month to search the Sambisa forest, a nearby area where witnesses and unverified reports say the girls may be held.
Up to now, nobody have ever entered that Sambisa, and they say they know where those girls are. But up to now, no any response.
Meanwhile, the Nigerian government has asked the United Nations Security Council to add Boko Haram to its list of terrorist organizations subject to an arms embargo and asset freezes. Alan Bucknia, TVB News.
And still ahead in the news tonight. Concerns about the presence of bacteria at subdivided flats. Miami turns up the heat in Eastern Conference final. And two pandas call Malaysia home.